My name is Alex, and I'm pretty sure I'm the luckiest kid in the whole wide world. Why? Because today was delivery day. Not just any delivery day, but the day my brand new, super duper awesome, Galactic Explorers video game was supposed to arrive from Amazon. I'd been saving up my allowance for months, doing extra chores for my mom and dad, and even selling lemonade on the corner, even though my little brother drank half of it every time. The anticipation was almost too much to handle. Every few minutes, I'd run to the front window and peek through the blinds, hoping to catch a glimpse of the brown Amazon truck. My dog, Buster, a fluffy golden retriever, seemed to understand my excitement. He'd wag his tail and follow me to the window, tilting his head as if to say, "Is it here yet? Is it here yet?" Finally, after what felt like forever, I saw it. The familiar brown truck pulled up to the curb, and the driver hopped out with a package in his hand. My heart leaped with joy. This was it. Galactic Explorers was finally here. I practically vibrated with excitement as I watched the driver walk up to our porch and place the package near the front door. He snapped a quick picture with his phone, proof of delivery, I guess, and then hopped back into his truck and drove off. I couldn't wait any longer. I threw open the front door, ready to grab my precious game and start playing. But then, I stopped dead in my tracks. The porch was empty. The package was gone. Vanished. Disappeared. My heart sank faster than a spaceship plummeting into a black hole. This couldn't be happening. I checked the delivery confirmation on my phone. Delivered, it said in big, bold letters. Left at front door. But there was nothing there. Just an empty porch and a very confused golden retriever. Where could it have gone? Had a rogue gust of wind blown it away? Had a squirrel made off with it, thinking it was a giant nut? No, something felt wrong. Very wrong. This was not a normal package disappearance. This felt suspicious. The disappointment hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't just the missing game, it was the feeling of being cheated. All that saving, all that hard work, all that anticipation, gone. Poof. Just like that. I slumped onto the porch swing, feeling utterly defeated. Buster nudged my hand with his wet nose, as if trying to comfort me. He didn't understand the intricacies of video game deliveries, but he knew I was upset. I started retracing my steps, hoping I'd missed something. Maybe the driver had put it behind a bush. Maybe it had fallen off the porch somehow. I searched every nook and cranny of our front yard, but there was no sign of the package. The delivery confirmation taunted me from my phone screen. Delivered. Front door. It was a digital lie staring me right in the face. A wave of frustration washed over me. I wanted to scream, to stomp my feet, to throw a tantrum like my little brother. But I knew that wouldn't bring my game back. I needed to think logically. I needed to figure out what had happened. I went back inside and showed my mom the delivery confirmation. "Mom, the package is gone. It says it was delivered, but it's not here." My mom frowned. "That's strange. Are you sure you checked everywhere?" "Yes. I looked everywhere. It's just, gone." My mom sighed. "Okay, let's call Amazon. Maybe they can track the driver and see what happened." I watched as my mom navigated the automated phone system, punching in numbers and waiting on hold. The hold music was the most annoying song in the world, and it only added to my frustration. After what seemed like an eternity, she finally got through to a customer service representative. She explained the situation, and the representative put her on hold again. More annoying music. More waiting. Finally, the representative came back on the line. "We've checked with the driver," she said. "He confirms that he delivered the package to your front door. He even took a picture." "But the package isn't here," my mom exclaimed. "It's gone." The representative paused. "Well, sometimes packages are stolen. We can file a claim for you, but it will take a few days to investigate. Stolen. The word hit me like a lightning bolt. Someone had actually stolen my package. My game. The thought made my blood boil. This wasn't just a missing package, it was a crime. The word stolen kept echoing in my head. Who would steal a video game? And why? As I tried to wrap my mind around the idea, a name popped into my head, Karen. Now, Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She was the neighbor. The one who always seemed to be peering out her windows, the one who knew everyone's business, the one who, well, the one who had a reputation for being a little too ROI. Karen lived 2 houses down from us, in a perfectly manicured house with a perfectly manicured lawn. She always wore perfectly pressed clothes and had a perfectly coiffed hairstyle. Everything about her screamed perfect, except for her habit of, let's just say, misplacing things that didn't belong to her. My mom had warned me about her before. Just be careful around Mrs. Davison, Alex, she'd said. She means well, but she sometimes has a hard time remembering what's hers and what's not. Mrs. Davison, aka Karen, had borrowed my dad's garden hose last summer and forgotten to return it for weeks. She'd also accidentally taken my little brother's scooter from our front yard, claiming she thought it belonged to her grandson. And just last month, she'd mistakenly worn my mom's favorite scarf to a neighborhood potluck. Each time, she'd apologize profusely, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But after a while, the misunderstandings started to feel less like accidents and more like, well, like stealing. Could Karen have taken my package? The thought seemed crazy, but the more I considered it, the more it made sense. She was always home, she was always watching, and she definitely had a history of taking things that weren't hers. A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't want to believe that Karen would steal my game, but the evidence was starting to pile up. And if she did steal it, well, that meant I had a serious problem on my hands. Because I wasn't just going to let her get away with it. I was going to get my game back, no matter what it took. Even if it meant, well, you'll see. Let's just say I had a plan brewing, and it involved a whole lot of glitter. It wasn't just the hose, the scooter, and the scarf. There were other little things, too. Like the time Karen asked my mom a million questions about a package we received a few weeks ago. It was just a new set of Legos for my little brother, but Karen acted like it was top secret government information. Oh, a package, she chirped, her eyes wide with curiosity. What did you get? Anything exciting? Is it heavy? Where did it come from? My mom, being the polite person she is, answered all her questions. But I remember thinking it was a little strange. Why did she care so much about our packages? And then there was the time I saw her snooping around our mailbox. I was riding my bike home from school when I noticed her standing by our mailbox, fiddling with something. When she saw me, she quickly straightened up and gave me a nervous smile. Just checking to see if the mailman came yet, she said, her voice a little too high-pitched. But the mailman had already been by hours ago. And I couldn't forget the countless times I'd seen her peeking out her windows, watching everything that went on in the neighborhood. It was like she was a neighborhood security guard, except instead of protecting us, she was just observing. And maybe, just maybe, planning her next borrowing spree. Thinking back on all these incidents, a clear picture started to form in my mind. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor, she was a package-snatching ninja. Okay, maybe not a ninja, but definitely someone who had a penchant for other people's belongings. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that Karen was the culprit. She had the motive, a love of borrowing, the opportunity, she was always home and watching, and the means, she was sneaky and good at pretending to be innocent. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her get away with stealing my game. I had to take action. But what could I do? I wasn't a detective. I wasn't a superhero. I was just a kid with a missing video game and a very suspicious neighbor. But then, an idea sparked in my mind. A crazy, glittery, explosive idea that just might work. It was risky, it was messy, and it was definitely going to get Karen's attention. But it was the only way I could think of to catch her in the act and get my game back. It was time to unleash the glitter bomb. I knew I couldn't keep my suspicions to myself. I needed to talk to someone, to get a second opinion. So, I decided to confide in my best friend, Ben. Ben was always good at giving advice, and he was fiercely loyal. Plus, he hated Karen just as much as I did, mainly because she once told him his skateboard was too loud, and he should take up a quieter hobby. I called Ben and asked him to come over. When he arrived, I led him to my room and closed the door. "Okay, this is serious," I said, lowering my voice. "My Amazon package is gone, and I think Karen stole it." Ben's eyes widened. "Karen? Seriously? That's messed up." I nodded. "I know, right?" I told him about all the suspicious things Karen had done over the years, from the borrowed garden hose to the snooping around the mailbox. I explained how she always seemed to be watching us and how I just had this gut feeling that she was the one who took my game. Ben listened intently, nodding his head in agreement. "Yeah, that sounds like Karen, all right. She's always been a little off." "So, you believe me?" I asked. "Of course, I believe you," Ben said. "I wouldn't put anything past that lady." "But what are you going to do about it? You can't just accuse her without proof." I know, I said. "That's why I came up with a plan." I leaned in closer and whispered my idea for the glitter bomb trap. Ben's eyes grew wider and wider as I explained the details. "Whoa," he said when I was finished. "That's intense. But also, kind of awesome. You're going to set a trap for Karen with a glitter bomb?" "Yep," I said, grinning. "Operation Glitter Justice is a go." Ben laughed. "I'm in. What can I do to help?" Having Ben on board made me feel a lot better. It was good to know I wasn't alone in this. Plus, Ben was a master of all things tech-related. He could probably help me set up the camera to record Karen when she took the bait. With Ben's help, I was confident that we could catch Karen in the act and get my game back. Operation Glitter Justice was officially underway, and Karen Davison had no idea what was coming. She messed with the wrong kid and the wrong video game. It was time for her to face the sparkly, shimmering consequences. "Okay, so we know Karen is probably the thief," Ben said, pacing back and forth in my room. "But how do we prove it? We need to catch her in the act." "Exactly," I exclaimed. "But how? We can't just stake out her house all day. That would be boring, and she'd probably see us." We started brainstorming ideas, throwing out different scenarios and schemes. "What about a motion sensor?" Ben suggested. "We could put one on the porch, and if someone comes near the packages, it'll set off an alarm." That could work," I said. "But it wouldn't necessarily prove that Karen stole the package. It could just be the mailman or someone else." "True," Ben conceded. "Okay, what about a hidden camera? We could set one up to record anyone who comes near the porch." "That's a good idea," I said. "But where would we hide it? And how would we get it to record without being obvious?" We spent the next hour tossing around different ideas, each one more outlandish than the last. We considered everything from setting up a fake package with a GPS tracker to disguising ourselves as bushes and waiting for Karen to strike. But nothing seemed quite right. Then, out of nowhere, Ben had a stroke of genius. "What about a glitter bomb?" he said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "A glitter bomb?" I asked, confused. "What's that?" "It's like a booby trap," Ben explained. "We fill a package with glitter and rig it to explode when someone opens it. It'll cover the thief in glitter, and we'll have video evidence to prove it was them." My eyes widened. That's brilliant, I said. It's messy, it's embarrassing, and it's definitely going to get Karen's attention. Plus, who could resist opening a package full of glitter? The glitter bomb idea was perfect. It was the right combination of cleverness, chaos, and undeniable proof. It was exactly what we needed to catch Karen and get my game back. Okay, Operation Glitter Justice just got a whole lot more sparkly, I said, grinning. Let's get to work. And with that, we launched into the planning stages of the most epic glitter bomb trap the neighborhood had ever seen. Karen Davison, you have been warned. Glitter is coming. Creating the glitter bomb was like a top-secret science experiment, only way more sparkly. First, we needed an Amazon box. Luckily, my mom had saved a few from previous deliveries. We chose one that was about the same size as the Galactic Explorers game package, to make it look as realistic as possible. Next, we needed glitter. And not just a little bit of glitter. We needed a lot of glitter. We raided my mom's craft supplies and found several containers of the stuff, in every color imaginable: silver, gold, pink, blue, green, the works. We even found some extra fine iridescent glitter that shimmered like 1,000 tiny rainbows. This was going to be epic. The triggering mechanism was the tricky part. We needed something that would activate the glitter explosion when the box was opened. Ben, being the tech genius that he is, came up with a brilliant solution using a spring-loaded pop-up card mechanism. We carefully disassembled the pop-up card and attached it to the inside of the box. Then, we connected the spring to a small container filled with glitter. When the box was opened, the spring would release, launching the container and showering the unsuspecting thief with a glittery deluge. To make the explosion even more spectacular, we added a few extra touches. We stuffed the box with crumpled newspaper to create a puff of confetti when the glitter exploded. We also added a few drops of smelly liquid, a mixture of vinegar and fish sauce, to really make the experience unforgettable. Finally, we sealed the box shut with packing tape, making sure it looked just like a regular Amazon package. On the outside, we wrote a fake shipping label with a random name and address. We didn't want Karen to get suspicious if she saw our name on the package. The glitter bomb was complete. It was a beautiful, sparkly, smelly work of art. Now all we had to do was wait for Karen to take the bait. We placed the glitter bomb on the porch, right where the real package had been delivered. The trap was set. Operation Glitter Justice was in full swing. The waiting game had begun. I could barely contain my excitement, and a little bit of nervousness. Would Karen fall for it? Would the glitter bomb work? Only time would tell. But one thing was for sure, Karen Davison was about to get a whole lot more sparkly. With the glitter bomb in place, our next task was to set up the camera. We needed to capture the moment of truth, the glorious glitter explosion that would finally expose Karen as the package thief. Ben, being the tech whiz, took charge of this part of the operation. We decided to use my dad's old camcorder. It wasn't exactly state-of-the-art, but it had a decent zoom and a long recording time. The challenge was finding a way to hide it so that Karen wouldn't notice it. After some careful consideration, we decided to hide the camcorder inside a birdhouse that was hanging on a tree in our front yard. The birdhouse had a small opening that was just big enough for the camera lens to peek through. We carefully positioned the birdhouse so that it had a clear view of the porch. Ben spent a good hour adjusting the camera settings, making sure the focus was sharp and the zoom was just right. He even added a makeshift sunshade to the birdhouse to prevent glare. He was a true professional. Once the camera was in place, we did a test run to make sure everything was working properly. We walked onto the porch, pretended to pick up the package, and then ran back inside to review the footage. The camera captured everything perfectly. We could clearly see the package, the porch, and anyone who came near it. "This is going to work," Ben said, giving me a high five. "Karen doesn't stand a chance." We set the camera to record continuously, just in case Karen decided to strike at an unexpected time. Then, we retreated inside and waited. The anticipation was almost unbearable. Every time a car drove by or someone walked down the street, we'd peek through the blinds, hoping to catch a glimpse of Karen. But she was nowhere to be seen. The waiting was driving me crazy. I wanted to know if our plan was going to work. I wanted to get my game back. But I knew we had to be patient. We had to let Karen come to us. As the sun began to set, I started to get discouraged. Maybe Karen wasn't going to fall for it. Maybe she wasn't even the thief. Maybe I was wrong about everything. But then, just as I was about to give up hope, I saw her. A figure emerged from her house and started walking towards ours. It was Karen. And she was heading straight for the glitter bomb. My heart started pounding. This was it. The moment of truth had arrived. Operation Glitter Justice was about to reach its sparkly conclusion. Scratch that last part. It felt like it was Karen, but it was just Mrs. Gable from across the street, who was picking up a package that had been accidentally delivered to our house. False alarm. The next few days were agonizing. Every time I heard a car door slam or footsteps on the sidewalk, my heart would jump into my throat. I'd race to the window, peeking through the blinds like a secret agent on a stakeout. But it was always just someone walking their dog, a delivery driver dropping off a pizza, or the neighborhood kids playing hopscotch. The suspense was killing me. I started to doubt myself. Maybe Karen wasn't going to take the bait. Maybe she wasn't even the thief in the first place. Maybe I was completely wrong about everything. There were a few near misses that almost gave me a heart attack. One day, the mail carrier came to deliver our mail. As he approached the porch, he glanced at the glitter bomb and seemed to hesitate for a moment. My breath caught in my throat. Was he going to take it? Was he going to set off the trap? I held my breath as he reached for the glitter bomb. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands, and then, he put it back down. He must have realized it wasn't his package. I let out a sigh of relief and slumped back against the wall. That was way too close. Another time, my little brother, Timmy, almost triggered the trap. He was playing in the front yard when he spotted the glitter bomb. He thought it was a new toy and started to reach for it. Luckily, I saw him just in time and yelled, "Timmy, no. Don't touch that." He looked at me, confused, but he obeyed. I quickly scooped him up and carried him inside, explaining that the package was special, and he couldn't play with it. Those near misses were nerve-wracking, but they also kept me on edge. They reminded me that Karen could strike at any moment. And when she did, I was going to be ready. Despite the false alarms and the growing impatience, I refused to give up hope. I knew that Karen was out there, and I knew that eventually, she would make her move. It was only a matter of time. So, I continued to wait, to watch, and to hope. Every day, I checked the camera footage, hoping to see a glimpse of Karen. Every night, I went to bed dreaming of glitter explosions and triumphant victories. Operation Glitter Justice was still in effect, and I was determined to see it through to the end. Even if it meant waiting for days, weeks, or even months. I was not going to let Karen get away with stealing my game. Glitter was coming, and she couldn't hide forever. Finally, the day arrived. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was sitting in my room, doing my homework, or at least pretending to. Ben was over, and we were both glued to our phones, constantly refreshing the security camera app. Suddenly, Ben gasped. "Alex. She's here. She's actually doing it." I snatched my phone from him and stared at the screen. There was Karen, walking up to our porch with a determined look on her face. She glanced around nervously, as if making sure no one was watching. Then, she reached for the glitter bomb. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. The moment we had been waiting for. I held my breath, bracing myself for the explosion. Karen picked up the package and started to walk away, cradling it in her arms like a newborn baby. She took a few steps, then stopped. She seemed to be admiring the package, turning it over in her hands. And then, she did it. She started to open the box. In that instant, all hell broke loose. The spring-loaded mechanism released with a loud pop. The box exploded in a cloud of glitter, confetti, and smelly liquid. Glitter of every color imaginable filled the air, shimmering and sparkling in the sunlight. Karen shrieked and dropped the box, recoiling in horror as she was showered with the glittery mess. She was covered head to toe in glitter, from her perfectly coiffed hair to her perfectly pressed clothes. The confetti swirled around her like a miniature tornado, and the smell of vinegar and fish sauce filled the air. It was glorious. It was beautiful. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. Operation Glitter Justice had been a resounding success. Ben and I burst out laughing, high-fiving each other and jumping up and down with excitement. We couldn't believe it. We had actually caught Karen in the act. Did you see her face? Ben exclaimed, wiping tears from his eyes. She looked like she had just seen a ghost. I couldn't stop laughing. It was the funniest thing I had ever seen. And the best part was, we had it all on video. We had undeniable proof that Karen was the package thief. But our celebration was short-lived. We knew we had to act fast. We had to confront Karen and get my game back. The glitter explosion was just the beginning. The real showdown was about to begin. And I was ready for it. Karen Davison, you messed with the wrong kid. It's time to face the sparkly consequences. Before confronting Karen, we knew we had to review the footage and make absolutely sure it was her. We couldn't risk accusing the wrong person. So, we grabbed the camcorder from the birdhouse and raced back to my room. We plugged the camcorder into my computer and started playing back the recording. The footage was a little shaky, but it was clear enough to see everything that had happened. There was Karen, walking up to our porch with that sneaky look on her face. There she was, glancing around nervously before grabbing the glitter bomb. And there she was, opening the box and getting blasted with glitter. The video was even funnier the second time around. We watched as Karen shrieked and flailed her arms, trying to brush off the glitter. We saw her stumble backward, tripping over her own feet and nearly falling into the bushes. We even caught a glimpse of her face, contorted in a mixture of surprise, anger, and utter humiliation. There was no doubt about it. It was Karen. The video was irrefutable proof that she was the package thief. We had her dead to rights. Oh my gosh, Alex, Ben said, wiping tears from his eyes. This is the best video ever. We have to put this on the internet. No way. I said. We can't do that. That would be mean. But it's so funny. Ben protested. I know, but still, I said. We're not going to stoop to her level. We're going to use this video to get my game back, and that's it. Ben sighed. Okay, fine. But can we at least show it to your parents? Definitely. I said. They're not going to believe this. We watched the video a few more times, just to make sure we hadn't missed anything. We analyzed every frame, studying Karen's movements and expressions. We wanted to be prepared for anything she might say or do when we confronted her. We knew that Karen wasn't going to admit to anything easily. She was probably going to deny everything and try to play the victim. But we had the video. We had the proof. And we weren't going to let her get away with it. With the video in hand, we were ready to face Karen. We were armed with the truth, the evidence, and a whole lot of glittery satisfaction. It was time for the final showdown. It was time for Karen to face the music. And it was time for me to get my game back. Operation Glitter Justice was about to reach its grand finale. We found Karen attempting to clean herself up in her front yard, the garden hose spraying wildly around her. The scene was even more absurd in person. Glitter clung to everything, her hair, her clothes, her skin, even the leaves on her prized rose bushes. She looked like a disco ball that had exploded. Her initial reaction to the glitter bomb, as captured on video, was pure surprise. Her eyes widened, her mouth dropped open, and she let out a shriek that could have shattered glass. She looked genuinely shocked and bewildered, as if she couldn't believe what was happening. But the surprise quickly turned to anger. Her face contorted into a scowl, and she started to flail her arms, trying to brush off the glitter. She stomped her feet and muttered under her breath, her words too muffled to understand. You could tell she was furious. But beneath the anger, there was also a layer of embarrassment. She knew she had been caught, and she knew that we were probably watching her. She kept glancing around nervously, as if expecting the entire neighborhood to come out and laugh at her. The combination of surprise, anger, and embarrassment was a sight to behold. It was like watching a cartoon character go through a series of rapid-fire emotions. One minute she was shocked, the next she was furious, and the next she was trying to hide her face in shame. Even from a distance, I could feel the heat radiating off her. She was a volcano about to erupt. And I knew that when we confronted her, she was going to unleash all that pent-up frustration and anger on us. But I wasn't scared. I was ready for her. I had the video. I had the proof. And I had the moral high ground. Karen Davison had messed with the wrong kid, and now she was going to pay the price. It was time to face the music. It was time to face the glitter. And it was time for me to get my game back. With Ben by my side, I took a deep breath and started walking towards Karen's house. It was time for the final showdown. Operation Glitter Justice was about to reach its sparkly, satisfying conclusion. And I couldn't wait to see the look on Karen's face when I confronted her with the truth. She was about to learn that stealing doesn't pay, especially when glitter is involved. As we approached Karen's yard, she stopped hosing herself down and glared at us. Her eyes narrowed, and her lips formed a thin, angry line. She looked like she was ready for a fight. What do you want? She snapped, her voice dripping with venom. Can't you see I'm busy? We want my game back, Karen, I said, trying to sound as confident as possible. The Galactic Explorers video game that you stole from my porch. Karen's eyes widened in mock surprise. I have no idea what you're talking about, Alex, she said, her voice dripping with innocence. I would never steal anything from anyone. Oh really? I said, raising an eyebrow. Then what were you doing opening that package on my porch earlier today? Karen's face flushed red. I thought it was mine, she stammered. I was expecting a package from Amazon, and I just assumed it was it. Oh, so you just randomly open other people's packages now? Ben chimed in, his voice dripping with sarcasm. It was a mistake. Karen insisted. A simple misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that involved you getting covered in glitter and smelling like fish sauce. I asked, my voice rising. Come on, Karen, we have you on video. We know you stole my game. Karen's eyes darted back and forth, searching for an escape. She knew she was cornered. She knew we had the proof. Okay, fine, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe I did take the package. But it was an accident. I didn't know it was yours. An accident that you conveniently forgot to mention to anyone? I asked. An accident that involved you sneaking onto my porch and stealing my property? I was going to return it. Karen protested. I just wanted to see what was inside. Yeah, right, Ben said. And I'm the King of England. Look, just give me my game back, Karen, I said, my voice firm. And maybe, just maybe, I won't call the police. Karen hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Fine, she said, defeated. It's in my house. I'll go get it. She turned and stomped towards her house, muttering under her breath. Ben and I exchanged a triumphant grin. Operation Glitter Justice was about to reach its final, glorious conclusion. We had caught Karen in the act, and now she was going to pay the price. It was only a matter of time before I had my game back in my hands. And it was all thanks to a little bit of glitter and a whole lot of determination. It was classic Karen behavior. Deny, 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 until faced with irrefutable evidence. It was like she had a script ready for these situations. I didn't do it. It was a mistake. I was going to return it. The same old excuses, the same old lies. But this time, it wasn't going to work. This time, we had her cornered. We had the video. And the video didn't lie. The way she tried to play innocent was almost comical. Her eyes widened, her voice trembled, and she put on her best, face. But it was all an act. We knew the truth. We had seen her sneaking onto our porch, grabbing the glitter bomb, and getting blasted with glitter. There was no denying what she had done. Even when we presented her with the facts, she tried to wiggle her way out of it. She claimed she thought the package was hers, that she was just curious, that she was going to return it eventually. But none of it made any sense. If she thought the package was hers, why didn't she just knock on our door and ask about it? Why did she have to sneak onto our porch like a common thief? The truth was, Karen was a habitual borrower. She had a history of taking things that didn't belong to her, and she always had some flimsy excuse ready to go. It was a pattern of behavior that had gone on for far too long. But this time, she had gone too far. She had stolen my game. And I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The video evidence was the key. It was the one thing that Karen couldn't deny. It was the smoking gun that proved her guilt. And it was the reason why she finally caved and admitted to what she had done. Without the video, it would have been her word against ours. She would have probably convinced everyone that we were just making things up, that we were being mean to her, that she was the real victim. But thanks to Operation Glitter Justice, we had the upper hand. We had the proof. And we were able to expose Karen for who she really was, a package-snatching, glitter-covered liar. It was a victory for justice. It was a victory for gamers everywhere. And it was a victory for anyone who has ever had their belongings stolen by a nosy neighbor. Karen Davison, you have been defeated. Glitter has triumphed. And now, it's time to get my game back. As Karen disappeared into her house, Ben and I stood in her yard, waiting impatiently. I could hear her rummaging around inside, probably trying to come up with another excuse or hide the evidence. When she finally emerged, she was carrying my Galactic Explorers video game. The box was slightly dented and covered in a thin layer of glitter, but otherwise, it seemed to be in good condition. She handed me the game with a sigh. "Here," she said, her voice barely audible. "Take your stupid game." I grabbed the game from her and inspected it carefully. "Is this all of it?" I asked. "Did you take anything else from the package?" "No," she snapped. "That's all there was." "I swear." "Then why did you take it in the first place?" I asked, pressing her for an explanation. "Why did you sneak onto my porch and steal my game?" Karen hesitated for a moment, then launched into a rambling explanation that made absolutely no sense. "Well, you see," she began, "I was expecting a package from Amazon, and I thought it was mine. But then, when I opened it, it wasn't what I was expecting. So, I was going to hold on to it for safekeeping until I could figure out who it belonged to. I didn't want it to get stolen or damaged. I was just trying to be a good neighbor." Ben and I exchanged a skeptical look. Her story was ridiculous. She expected us to believe that she stole my package out of the goodness of her heart. That she was just trying to protect it from harm. It was absurd. "So, you were holding it for safekeeping," Ben said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But you didn't bother to tell anyone. You just let Alex think his game was lost or stolen." "Well, I was going to tell him," Karen stammered. "I just didn't get around to it yet." "Right," I said, rolling my eyes. And I'm sure you were also going to return my dad's garden hose and my mom's scarf, too, right? Karen's face flushed red. She knew she had been caught in a lie. Look, she said, her voice pleading. I'm sorry, okay? I made a mistake. I won't do it again. Just please don't tell anyone about this. I don't want everyone in the neighborhood to think I'm a thief. I stared at her for a moment, considering my options. I could call the police, I could tell my parents, I could post the video online and humiliate her in front of the entire world. But none of those options felt right. I just wanted my game back. And now that I had it, I was ready to move on. Fine, Karen, I said. I won't tell anyone. But you have to promise me that you'll never steal anything from anyone again. And you have to apologize. Karen looked relieved. I promise, she said. I'm so sorry, Alex. I really am. I nodded. Okay, I said. Apology accepted. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a video game to play. With my game in hand, Ben and I turned and walked away, leaving Karen standing alone in her glitter-covered yard. Operation Glitter Justice was officially complete. And I had finally learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate the power of a little bit of glitter and a whole lot of determination. Back in my room, with Galactic Explorers finally in my possession, Ben and I discussed the consequences of Karen's actions. She had returned the game and apologized, but was that enough? Should we have involved the police? Should we have told my parents? I don't know, Alex, Ben said, scratching his head. She did steal your game. That's a crime. Maybe we should have called the cops. I thought about it, I said. But I didn't want to get her in trouble. She seemed really sorry, and I think she learned her lesson. But what if she does it again? Ben asked. What if she steals someone else's package? That's true, I said. But I think she'll be too scared to try anything after this. She knows we're watching her. We also talked about telling my parents. They would have been furious with Karen, and they probably would have insisted on calling the police. But I didn't want to cause any more drama. I just wanted to put the whole thing behind me. I think we should tell your parents, Ben said. They have a right to know what happened. I know, I said. But I don't want them to make a big deal out of it. I just want them to know that I got my game back, and that Karen promised not to steal anything again. Ultimately, we decided to tell my parents the basic story, but we left out the details about the glitter bomb and the video. We didn't want them to get angry or overreact. We just wanted them to be aware of the situation. My parents were surprisingly understanding. They were glad that I got my game back, and they were impressed with my resourcefulness. They also agreed that Karen's behavior was unacceptable, and they promised to keep a closer eye on her in the future. As for Karen, the biggest consequence she faced was the embarrassment of getting caught. She knew that we knew she was a thief, and she knew that we had the video to prove it. That was probably enough to deter her from stealing anything again. In the end, I think we handled the situation as best we could. We got my game back, we held Karen accountable for her actions, and we avoided causing any unnecessary drama. And we learned a valuable lesson about the importance of standing up for ourselves and protecting our belongings. Operation Glitter Justice may have been a little bit crazy, but it was also a resounding success. And it proved that even a kid with a missing video game can take down a package-snatching neighbor with a little bit of glitter and a whole lot of determination. In the weeks that followed, things in the neighborhood seemed to return to normal. Karen kept a low profile, avoiding eye contact whenever she saw me or Ben. She even started returning things she had borrowed in the past, like my dad's garden hose and Mrs. Gable's gardening shears. It seemed like she had finally learned her lesson. The story of the glitter bomb spread like wildfire throughout the neighborhood. Everyone found it hilarious, except for maybe Karen. People would stop me on the street and ask, "Hey, are you the kid who glitter bombed Mrs. Davison?" I'd usually just smile and nod, enjoying the attention. The story became a local legend, a testament to the power of creativity and determination. Even my parents couldn't help but laugh about it, once the initial shock wore off. They were proud of me for standing up for myself, even if they didn't entirely approve of my methods. As for me, I finally got to play Galactic Explorers. It was even more awesome than I had imagined. I spent hours exploring distant planets, battling alien creatures, and saving the galaxy. It was the perfect reward for all my hard work and perseverance. But the best part was knowing that I had made a difference. I had stood up to a bully, I had protected my belongings, and I had taught Karen a valuable lesson about the importance of honesty and respect. Operation Glitter Justice was more than just a prank. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest person can make a big impact. And it all started with a missing video game and a whole lot of glitter. Years later, the story of the glitter bomb is still told in our neighborhood. It's a funny reminder of the time that a kid took down a package-snatching neighbor with a little bit of ingenuity and a whole lot of sparkle. And every time I hear the story, I can't help but smile, knowing that I played a part in creating a local legend. Karen, on the other hand, probably doesn't find the story quite as amusing. But maybe, just maybe, it taught her a valuable lesson about the consequences of her actions. And maybe, just maybe, she'll think twice before borrowing anything that doesn't belong to her again. After all, you never know when a glitter bomb might be waiting. Looking back on the whole experience, I often wonder if the glitter bomb was really worth it. Was it the right thing to do? Was it too extreme? On the one hand, it was definitely a risky move. I could have gotten into serious trouble if Karen had decided to press charges. I could have hurt someone if the glitter bomb had gone off in their face. And I could have damaged my relationship with my neighbors, making things awkward and uncomfortable for everyone. But on the other hand, it was also incredibly effective. It caught Karen in the act, it held her accountable for her actions, and it taught her a valuable lesson about the importance of honesty and respect. It also gave me a sense of empowerment and control. I had taken a bad situation and turned it into a victory. I learned a lot about my neighbors during this whole ordeal. I learned that not everyone is as trustworthy as they seem. I learned that it's important to be aware of your surroundings and to protect your belongings. And I learned that sometimes, you have to take matters into your own hands to get what you deserve. I also learned a lot about problem solving. I learned that